Now I'll talk about managing your voice in terms of delivery. So, believe it or not, voice is actually considered nonverbal behavior because voice itself isn't words. It's it's what surrounds the words, right? Your tone, your speed with which you say things, your use of pauses, right? The speed with which you say something, the the way that you might pause for dramatic effect, right, are all part of voice. And so when we manage our voice, we need to control our breath. And the authors of our textbook talk a lot about diaphragm breathing, and diaphragm breathing is like it's deeper and down low when we breathe, and as opposed to breathing that is shallow or fast and higher up in our stomachs, right? Oftentimes you can, if you get really nervous, you could actually hyperventilate, right? And so trying to control your breath, take slow, deep breaths, often will help reduce our anxiety too, right? And so managing voice is a lot of breath control, right? And the way we use pauses and the way we emphasize certain words, right, stems from breath. There's that story of Demosthenes, if you got a chance to check that out this week, where he talks about he was a Greek philosopher, Roman rhetorician, I forget. But anyway, he had he really had he had a stuttering problem, and then he really worked on getting his body in really good shape, and he would run the mountains while he practiced his speeches, right? And so I think that's another important thing to remember too, is that public speaking is embodied, right? It's a physical act, right? And so it stems from something like breath, right? Absolutely. Then you want to speak loudly, right? To project loudly, because with public speaking, particularly in groups, large groups or 9 or more, which originally this class was designed for, you would speak loudly and you want to make sure that you could reach all the people, even the people in the back of the room, right? And even if there was a mic, right, you'd still want to project to reach everyone. And that's one of the things too, is you're using a louder voice than if you were in a conversation, right? It would be really awkward if you asked somebody how their day was and they projected as loud as they would, when they were actually giving a speech in front of a large audience, right? But that's what you do when you give a speech, is you project. You speak a lot louder than you would if you were talking to someone one-on-one. You're also going to vary your rate, which is the speed of the words, your pitch, like in terms of high or low, right, or high or low, and your volume. Yeah, absolutely. And the more that you can vary rate, pitch, and volume for emphasis, the greater you're going to have more of what we call vocal variety. And you want to have a lot of vocal variety, especially in the name of meaning and in the name of getting and keeping attention, right? So you don't want to be monotone in terms of your volume, your rate, or your pitch, or your audience could lose you. So you want to grab attention by using volume. But then you also don't want to get stuck in one sort of pace, right? And so you want to grab our attention and then keep it, and then in the service of meaning, right, making us feel sad, making us feel excited, right, making us feel interested. You're going to use these to create that meaning. So to get and hold attention and create meaning, you need to have good vocal variety. Avoid vocalized pauses, as I talked about before. These are like, so, I think like, so are really big in our classes. So trying to avoid those. It does appear to me as though like has become more acceptable, and I don't necessarily like it. So avoid vocalized pauses, and then articulate clearly and accurately. This is huge. So how we enunciate the words. So one thing it actually helps to do, and I do this in my face-to-face classes, would be to have us to like really open up your mouth, big and wide and be like, ah, like if you were at the dentist, ah, and then I'd have us say like the big black bug and like the big black bug, like really opening up your mouth, hitting all those sounds is really important in public speaking. You actually, if you almost over enunciate the sounds, like almost move your mouth too much, it'll actually help you develop good, clear enunciation. And so once you want crisp sounds when you articulate your words, especially like last names, you know, authors' last names. You should have research like how to clearly and accurately say that author's name. And it shouldn't, you know, you shouldn't stumble on that, right? And so clear enunciation, really opening up your mouth wide, projecting those sounds, right? Don't, yeah, I think that would be the most important advice I'd give you on enunciation would just be to over enunciate or to enunciate with force almost, right? So you're hitting all those sounds.